Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hey, what is up guys? Horror Nights Fan 13 here, and today, just how many hours earlier? Like about 7 hours ago, we received our third maze announcement for Halloween Horror Nights 2019 in Hollywood. So I am making this video today, a few hours after the announcement, to cover this announcement, let you know what's coming with this third maze announcement. But before we get into this video, please, as always, show your support, like the video if you like it, comment what you think about this announcement, comment what else you think is coming to this year, subscribe to keep up with further updating throughout 2019, follow the social media at HHMFan13 on Twitter, get a follow back on there just as a shout out for supporting my channel. And without further ado, let's get into maze announcement number 3. So, not exactly the Universal monsters I was expecting back for this year. They went over to Orlando. However, I am pleasantly surprised with this announcement, and I'm going to give myself about half a point on getting this one right. Because Universal Monsters, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, is coming to Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood 2019. So I'm going to read a press release from Inside Universal, and then I'm going to go through everything that John has talked about in the Q&A that he just wrapped up and share my personal thoughts on this maze. Hollywood will introduce an all-new horrifying maze, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, that delves deeper into the Universal Monsters lore, loosely based on the Universal's 1943 horror movie of the same name. The reimagined tale for the 21st century takes guests on a terrifying journey that bears witness to deadly confrontation between these two horror icons and the epic battle that rages between them. Guests will follow in the footsteps of Frankenstein's monster, lured by exotic music towards a nearby gypsy camp, while desperately seeking sanctuary from a mob of angry villagers determined to destroy him. It is within the gypsy encampment that Frankenstein's monster meets the Wolfman, and where the madness begins as guests are led on a path of destruction through murky moors to a creepy cemetery and into the smoldering ruins of Castle Frankenstein and its icy cellars beneath. Legendary guitarist Slash will also be returning to score the maze. Alright, now I'm going to set my phone back. So, with all of that being said, what John kind of said was that the maze is going to follow Frankenstein. He's going to go to the gypsy camp, and then he will run into Larry Tolbert, who is the Wolfman. God, son, my guy, it is cloudy outside today, and I adjusted the camera settings for the cloudiness, and now it is being bright again, and you know, I'm just going to roll with it. So, he will meet the Wolfman there, and then the two will be battling on. It's another versus style maze, just without the verses in the title. So, now let's get into the information that John gave within his Q&A. The first thing, this is the next chapter of the Universal Monsters maze. John says that this is set directly after the finale of Universal Monsters last year's maze. So as soon, like right after, as Frankenstein blows up the castle saying "We belong dead," I don't think there will be dubstep music playing right at the start this time, but you know, as soon as he pulls that lever, this is where we begin. We begin after that, where Frankenstein is seeking sanctuary from that, and he will be moving on, and he will go to the gypsy camp. Now the gypsy camp is actually going to be the facade of the maze, and it's actually a scrapped scene from last year's Universal Monsters maze. Yes, John confirmed a while back that this was one of two elements that were scrapped from the maze. The other one was the inclusion of Gillman, creature from the Black Lagoon, but this gypsy camp was a scene that would be heavily featuring the Wolfman in the Universal Monsters maze, rather than a quick cameo in Maria's crypt. However, this time we are going to be starting out in the gypsy camp, and then we will continue on through to those locations, such as the moors, the cemetery, the lab, the cellars beneath. It is going to be pretty epic maze. So it is loosely based, as the article said, on the 1943 horror movie of the same name. And so if you haven't actually seen the Frankenstein meets the Wolfman movie, the 1943 one that this maze will be loosely based on, you'll know, well, if you haven't seen it, you won't know, but if you have seen it, you will know that the Wolfman and Frankenstein don't actually confront each other until the very last minute of the movie, whereas in this maze it seems like they're going to be confronting each other as soon as the maze kind of starts. Like, we'll follow Frankenstein through the gypsy camp, and then once we're in there we'll find Tolbert being transformed into the Wolfman perhaps, and then we will see the Wolfman and Frankenstein duking it out throughout the rest of the maze. Now, this maze is not going to be located where Universal Monsters was last year. If you caught my earlier video about the last maze announcement that we had, which was Holidays in Hell, that maze is going to be located in Parisian Courtyard, where Universal Monsters was last year. This maze is going on the Metro sets. Now, there are 3 specific locations where it could be on the Metro sets. It could be in what the location I call the Metro sets is. It could be outside of Soundstage 747, or it could be on the just backlot behind the big backdrop painting where Blumhouse has been, American Horror Story has been, and From Dusk Till Dawn has been. Well, this maze is going in the Metro Sets location where the first Purge was located last year, Ash vs. Evil Dead before that, Krampus before that, Crimson Peak before that, and The Walking Dead for 2 years in a row before that. So that is where this maze is going to be located. And one of the most important things from the press release, one of the most important things about this maze in general, is the music that is going to be featured. And yes, it is confirmed that we will have the amazing Slash back to score this maze. Now, when I first heard about this, I was incredibly excited, but I thought, wow, Slash is super busy right now, because I'm following him, on social media and stuff, and I see that he's going all around the world with the conspirators currently. So seeing that he's taking the time out of his busy schedule to do this Universal Monsters maze is, it's very exciting. John says that the score should hopefully be all new. He's working on writing and recording it as we speak, while he's, taking a break from busy tour stuff, probably writing it while he's on tour as well. So he's hoping that it will be all new. He's also hoping that it will be released once this season has started, so that way the fans have more Universal Monsters music to be listening to, because let's face it, last year's soundtrack to the maze was awesome. I listened to it today myself after the announcement happened, just because of how excited I was about it. So he is hoping that we will be able to download it and keep listening to it after this season begins. Now, the next thing he said, this maze was kind of always the plan for Universal Monsters. He said, if Universal Monsters last year has succeeded, last year was kind of like the Avengers, where they team up and he brings all of them together. But now he wants to send them off into their own separate directions, spin them off. So this maze, I'm going to kind of compare it to Thor Ragnarok, not in the fact that it's versing people, no, but in the fact that you are bringing together 2 big Universal Monsters rather than just focusing on one, such as just doing a Frankenstein, just doing a Wolfman, just doing a Dracula. Whereas in Thor Ragnarok, if you've seen it, you'll know that both the Hulk, aka Bruce Banner, and Thor are in the movie together. So, it's kind of, and they do fight a little bit, so it's a bit more comparable than I thought. In the Holidays in Hell Q&A, someone asked him, hey, was this the maze that you were talking about with the snow, or is that maze yet to be announced? And he said, that maze has yet to be announced. Well, this is the maze, so we'll be seeing snow flocking just like we did for Krampus in 2016 within the set. They're going to be using the same makeup designs as last year from Crash McCreery. He's the one who designed all of the monsters last year. They'll be using Frankenstein's design, they'll be using Wolfman's design. However, John also added that they will be looking at different iterations that they could be doing of the Wolfman. Now, why would they be doing that? Someone also asked him if he could potentially be planning any transformation scenes for the maze this year. So we might be seeing like a half-human Wolfman, a fully transformed, maybe a full human Wolfman. So they might be like full human Wolfman, like Larry Tolbert. So they might be moving him from, you know, transformation similar to the American Werewolf in London, where they had transformation scene where you would see David as just starting out transforming, David almost done transforming, and then into a full wolf. No one actually asked him if he would be using the American Werewolf in London puppets or the puppets that he used for Trick or Treat and Universal Monsters last year again. So I guess that remains up to a mystery. I doubt that we will be seeing those again, because that's just not the style of Wolfman. It's like it's just not the style. Like, those are werewolves, and then Dracula was a wolf in American Werewolf, or not American Werewolf, in Universal Monsters, and the girls were kind of transforming into more dog-like werewolves in Trick or Treat than, you know, the Wolfman in Universal Monsters. So like I said, this maze will be a versus maze, and it will feature moments where Frankenstein and the Wolfman are fighting against each other, similar to Alien vs. Predator and Freddy vs. Jason. So there will probably be scenes where you're walking through a hallway, and then there will be one of them on your right and one of them on your left. They may also have scenes where, like Freddy vs. Jason, you'd be walking through kind of a turn, and then they'd have, you know, Jason be up on like a pedestal and follow you around, whereas Freddy just kind of pops out from a boo hole. Something like that. This maze is not the password maze. So if you don't know what the password maze is, the password is every year John has a password that you can, or has a certain maze that you can go and tell a password that he tweets out every night. And when you go up to a certain character outside of said maze, you can say the password to them and they will give you a little souvenir from the event. Someone asked him if he will be featuring any new types of scares within the maze, and, you know, John just said he's crossing his fingers and knocking on wood for some new type of scare. And of course, the final thing, not only will we be featuring Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and angry villagers within the maze, but Igor is back. He was featured in Universal Monsters last year. If you didn't see him, he was right before the We Belong Dead scene with Bride of Frankenstein in that little hallway before you entered Frankenstein's laboratory. So that about covers it for Universal Monsters Frankenstein versus the Wolfman. I'm very excited for this maze. I was expecting the Universal Monsters to return in a different way. I was expecting them to return the way that Orlando is doing them right now, on, you know, a bit bigger of a scale, including, you know, Creature from the Black Lagoon, probably including the rest of the monsters as well. They don't feature Invisible Man prominently on their key art, but I mean, he's the Invisible Man. He's probably naked in the picture. It's a little scandalous, I know. I was hoping for that, and I was thinking that would be the case, but, you know, John has always had this plan. He's always been kind of teasing, like, oh, if you were to have the Universal Monsters return, would you do it the same way as last year? And he's like, nope, always going to do something different. So now that Universal Monsters was a very successful and the highest rated maze of last year, he has decided to continue on with it, and let's hope that the rest of these mazes are successful so he can keep spinning off the Universal Monsters year after year, and we see something new with these monsters. And then ultimately, in a few years from now, we can maybe get them teaming up again, just like another Avengers movie. I'm very excited for this maze. It's probably at the top of my anticipation list right now, followed by Holidays, followed by Stranger Things. So that about sums it up. I think it's like the third time I've tried to wrap up this video, but that sums it up. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video if you like it. Comment what you think about this announcement and what you think is coming for the rest of this year, because this has been kind of a curveball year. We got Stranger Things, which we were expecting. We weren't really expecting a Holidays in Hell original maze, and we weren't really expecting a loosely based IP maze off of Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, so this year is just going to keep these surprises coming. And subscribe to keep up with further updating on the rest of the 2019 season. Follow social media at HMFan13 on Twitter and get a follow back just as a thank you for your support to my channel. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.